Good evening, everyone. We're glad you could join us. Stories arising from last week got progressively brighter and more detailed, and you could begin to discern their more palpable impact, talking about where and how it's touching the lives of Nigerians in more positive ways. There's a good dose of informed perspective and reactions to how crude oil is faring across the globe, as well as fresh consolidative efforts of the NNPC at a time like this. That's the broad outlook of this edition. Don't miss the interesting takeaways as we unfold the details. Thanks for joining us. I'm Akin Agbejule. This is Oil and Gas Forum.
We have sanitizers all around the places, in our lifts, in our offices, even at the security at the entrance point. But we still insist that hand washing is very key, is very important.
My brother, my sister, make we join the hand to stop pipeline vandalization. We no dey allow government to build the road, hospital, provide light, build the school, and make Nigeria be like big country. Make we dey fight the pipeline vandalization. Make our country come better for we and we children. Now me and you go stop this wahala. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Make our country come better for we and we children. Make we dey fight this yama yama, fight this yama yama. Make our country come better for we and we children.
This message now from Public Affairs Division of NNPC.
The Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), international oil companies (IOCs), as well as independent oil companies in the upstream and downstream sectors have donated 11 billion naira to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) as part of its effort to combat the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Malam Mele Kyari, made this disclosure during a press briefing at the NNPC Towers in Abuja. Malam Kyari said in recognition of the impact of coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic on the Nigerian population and economy, the Nigerian oil and gas industry embarked on an industry-wide collaborative initiative to support the effort to combat the pandemic and its attendant impact.
What we have done as an industry is to make a collective contribution at the moment of $30 million spread across businesses in the upstream and additional material and cash donations from the downstream sector. These interventions will be integrated to the ongoing federal government initiative of bringing the impact of the COVID-19 within control.
He noted that the increasing demand for medical services, medical consumables covering testing kits, medical protective suits, and ambulances to the highly impacted areas across the Federation informed the intervention of the oil industry. Meanwhile, as part of concerted efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic in the country, the NNPC on its own has handed over medical equipment to the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital in Gwagwalada, the Federal Capital Territory. Items handed over to the teaching hospital by Malam Mele Kyari included an oxygen generating plant, one brand new ambulance, 6 NNPC operational ambulance vehicles, one big ventilator, one small ventilator, patient monitor hospital beds, bedside cupboards, overtop tables, air conditioners, fully automated 5-part hematology analyzer, and semi-automated chemistry analyzer.
It is our duty and responsibility to be of service to this country and the citizens. So we are not helping you, we are doing our job.
On his part, Managing Director, NNPC Medical Services Limited, Dr. Mohammed Zango, said the corporation, as a responsible organization, was making the donation to meet the urgent medical needs of the isolation center in Abuja and to make the center more effective in delivering on its mandate.
We want to call on other corporate organizations to emulate NNPC. This is the way to go.
Earlier, the Chief Medical Director of the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Professor Bisala Ekele, commended the NNPC for rising up to the occasion by supplying the essential medical equipment to the hospital.
This is likely to be the most significant and prompt response that we have received since we have been crying for help.
Responding on behalf of the Director General of NCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, who was unavoidably absent at the occasion, the Director of Administration of the NCDC, Alhaji Yahaya Abdullahi, described the medical equipment donated by NNPC as the largest intervention so far received.
With what I'm seeing today, it's like NNPC came out in not just a big way, but the biggest way.
In compliance with the federal government's directive on COVID-19, the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has directed all office-based staff below management cadre across all its formations to work remotely from home. Group Managing Director Malam Mele Kyari directed all NNPC strategic business units to activate their business continuity plans immediately to ensure minimal disruption to operations while protecting staff from exposure to the COVID-19.
I think I'm very happy that everybody is complying, staff are cooperating maximally, and ultimately all of us are contributing to the health of this country.
The NNPC leadership, since the outbreak of the coronavirus disease, has been providing daily enlightenment to staff on how to keep themselves and their families safe from infection. Among others, it has ensured a compulsory temperature check on all staff and visitors, frequent hand wash, and the use of hand sanitizers at points of entry into the towers and all other locations of the corporation, and the maintenance of social distancing at all times.
It is necessary, it is for our health. Everyone should really cooperate and ensure that he passes through the checks.
We have a culture of respecting all that is necessary to make sure that we keep our staff safe and sound.
Meanwhile, the NNPC has condoled with the family of engineer Suleiman Achimogu, who passed on in the early hours of Monday after a bout with COVID-19. The corporation disclosed that the deceased, who was managing director of the then Pipelines and Products Marketing Company (PPMC), a downstream subsidiary of NNPC, went into self-isolation upon return from the United Kingdom on March 10, 2020. Consequently, upon reporting palpable symptoms of coronavirus disease, the NNPC Medical Services team collaborated with the National Center for Disease Control (NCDC) and the Public Health Department to ensure that all laid-down protocols were followed in handling the case of Engineer Chimogu, who retired on 24th July 2009 as Group General Manager, Renewable Energy Division (RED) in NNPC. The corporation, in the release, stated that its thoughts and prayers were with the entire members of the Achimogu family at this time. The Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), Malam Mele Kyari, has bagged the Business Day Excellence and Public Service Award. Receiving the award in Abuja recently, the NNPC GMD, who was represented by the General Manager External Relations, Mr. Samson Makoji, said that being at the helm of affairs of one of the leading public service organizations in Nigeria was an opportunity to do things right. The NNPC GMD emphasized the need for both management and employees in the public service to view their positions from the angle of trust, noting that their actions should always reflect accountability element and service. Kyari said that part of his vision for the nation's oil company was to deepen the culture of performance excellence in the system. Earlier in his remarks, the Managing Director, Business Day newspaper, Dr. Ogo Okiti, disclosed that the essence of the award was to recognize and appreciate outstanding contributions of some organizations to the development of the country.
You have been carefully selected for the specific things that you have done in your agencies and in your department in order to move Nigeria forward.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has announced an increased trading surplus of 5.28 billion naira in its December 2019 operations, compared to the 3.95 billion naira surplus posted in November last year. Details of the surplus were captured in the December 2019 edition of NNPC's monthly financial and operations report, which, among others, showed that the 34% increase for the period resulted from improved performances by some of its entities, both in the upstream and downstream sectors. The release listed NNPC subsidiaries with notable improved positions to include Integrated Data Services Limited, IDSL, Nigeria Gas Marketing Company, NGMC, Nigerian Pipeline and Storage Company, NPSC, and Duke Oil Incorporated.
One of the greatest challenges confronting the Nigerian oil and gas operations is crude oil, petroleum products theft, and pipeline vandalism. This menace affects the operations of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), international oil companies, and independent indigenous oil companies in Nigeria. Several measures in time past and currently have been deployed to mitigate the activities of these economic saboteurs that are bent on bleeding the national economy, destroying agrarian and aquatic lives, polluting the environment, and destroying the flora and fauna of areas of operations of the oil and gas sector. Technologies such as drones and the horizontal directional drilling (HDD) have been deployed to some of the hotspots where crude and petroleum products pipelines have come under several attacks by pipeline vandals. Equally, security agencies, vigilantes, and community youths have also been engaged to degrade vandals' activities. In 2019, Governor of Edo State Godwin Obaseki, who is also the chairman of the ad hoc committee of the National Economic Council on Crude Oil Theft, Prevention and Control, painted a dire picture of impact of pipeline breach.
If this trend is not abated, it will therefore mean that by year end this year, we'll have lost over $2.5 billion US.
The group managing director of the NNPC, Malamele Kyari, said the NNPC under his watch would continue to partner with the Nigerian Army, Navy, Nigeria Police, Department of State Services, and the entire state security apparatus to tame pipeline vandalism.
The issues around the acts of vandals, saboteurs, even thieves along our pipeline and on some of our assets is so known to everybody.
Heads of some of the security agencies enumerated efforts being made to tackle the menace which has threatened the revenue flow from the oil sector.
It's very needful for these two establishments to collaborate, to synergize and work together for the benefit of our country.
We are going to set up a team, a technical team perhaps, to see those particular areas where these losses are taking place.
We assure you of our continuous support of protecting the national asset infrastructure, especially the NNPC.
The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative disclosed in November last year that the country lost more than 505 million barrels of crude oil and 4.2 billion liters of petroleum products, valued at $40.06 billion and $1.84 billion respectively, to theft from 2009 to 2018.
The scale of the infrastructure that we need to protect is amazing. In terms of oil fields, 258 oil fields, more than 2,000 wellheads. The pipeline for refined products is more than 5,000 kilometers. The one for crude is more than 4,000 kilometers.
Speaking in similar vein, the Chief Operating Officer of the NNPC, Roland Ewubare, stated that a total of 1,376 pipeline points were vandalized between January and October 2019.
Between 2001 and 2019 half year, we recorded a total of 45,347 pipeline breaks and breaches on our downstream pipeline network.
On 19th January 2020, Nigeria recorded another pipeline vandalism in Abule Egba area of Lagos State that led to loss of 5 lives and properties.
And when we're running out, the small child herself, the little girl, her name Miriam. So she is the one that tapped me and showed me where her mother was burnt by fire with the younger brother.
Assuming it happened between 12 a.m. Dan, it could have been a disaster because everybody inside the house could have died, even from sleep to other words.
Malam Kyari called on the National Assembly to ignite necessary legislative action that would support the NNPC and the oil industry to combat the twin menace of pipeline vandalism and oil theft. So members of the Senate Joint Committee on Petroleum Resources, made up of the committees on downstream, upstream and gas, have these to say.
This Senate is very, very disturbed and is very concerned the danger the country is in regards to refining and transportation of finished products and crude oil.
Will provide the legislative intervention required as fast, as expeditious as possible.
Legal luminaries speak on the penalties prescribed by the Petroleum Production and Distribution Anti-Sabotage Act of 1975, which broadly provides stiffer penalties for the damages to certain infrastructures, including oil pipelines.
The Petroleum Products Anti-Sabotage Law Act of 1975 that clearly states that if anyone is found convicted, liable to have done anything to obstruct the distribution of petroleum products anywhere in Nigeria, if that person is found liable and convicted, the person shall be guilty of sabotage. The penalty for that is 21 years imprisonment or death penalty.
From our research, nobody has been charged to court under the Petroleum Products and Distribution Anti-Sabotage Law, which is a 1975 law. That is about 45 years now. Not one person has been charged to court under that law.
The menace of pipeline vandalism and crude oil theft are enemies of the national economy that must be stopped now to enable the economy to flourish. All hands must be on deck to stem the malaise and grow the national economy, as well as ensure that the environment is free from acute pollution. For the NNPC, as a responsible and responsive national oil company, it would continue to collaborate with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that Nigeria and Nigerians alike continue to derive maximum value from the abundant hydrocarbon resources of the nation.
They've really touched so many people's lives in positive ways.
They really touched my life in many positive ways.
The impression I got from NNPC after the competition is the fact that it's a good one and it should be encouraged.
NNPC is an organization that is sincerely, genuinely interested in improving the lives of young people in many positive ways through investing in their intellectual capacity, investing in their education.
NNPC, we touch your lives in many positive ways.
Hello, glad to have you join us on the feedback segment of the program. I am Julia Auta. The November 2019 monthly financial and operations report of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, shows that the corporation recorded 94% increase in pipeline vandalism. It is against this background that our roving camera is asking the public what punishment should be meted out to pipeline vandals in the country.
Oil now is the mainstay of Nigerian economy, and the people that are vandalizing this pipeline, they are economic sabotage. And going by that, honestly speaking, they deserve capital punishment.
We have laws that normally take care of all these kind of things. If you take China, for example, anything economic sabotage is death.
And there is what law says that should be done to people that do such things. It's very simple. Because the whole thing has a negative effect on the Nigerian economy.
When you are interested to destroy the economy of a country, you too must be destroyed.
Whatever punishment you are being given should be very, very intense.
94% increase in pipeline vandalism. That is quite scary. Let us join the vanguard against pipeline vandalism to safeguard our economy from saboteurs. Thanks for watching.
Hello! Glad to have you join us again on yet another informative segment of the program. My name is Faith Ayuba. Did you know that in October 2019, the United States produced about 12.65 million barrels of crude oil per day? The United States leads the world in total crude oil production ahead of Saudi Arabia and Russia. Did you know that the United States is the world's largest consumer of petroleum products? Did you know that in 2018, about 11% of the petroleum used in the United States was imported and about 43% of gross petroleum imports come from Canada? Did you also know that the United States' dependence on imported oil peaked in 2005? Now you know. Don't move an inch. Global Crude Oil Outlook is next.
Hello and welcome to Global Crude Oil Outlook. Oil prices fell, ending 3 sessions of gains as movement restrictions worldwide to contain the COVID-19 pandemic destroyed demand and overshadowed expectations that a US $2 trillion emergency stimulus will bolster economic activity. Brent crude futures fell $1.04 or 3.75% to $26.35 per barrel. US West Texas Intermediate WTI crude futures fell 94 cents or 3.8% to $23.55 per barrel. Both contracts are down about 60% this year. Goldman Sachs forecast global oil demand, which stood at around 100 million barrels per day last year, will fall by 10.5 million barrels per day in March and 18.7 million barrels per day in April. At the same time, the collapse of a supply cut pact between the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC and other producers led by Russia, known as OPEC Plus, is set to boost oil supply, with Saudi Arabia planning to ship more than 10 million barrels per day from May. U.S. crude inventories rose by 1.6 million barrels last week, the U.S. Energy Information Administration said, marking the 9th straight week of increase. Products supplied, a proxy for U.S. demand, dropped nearly 10% to 19.4 million barrels per day, EIA data showed. Thanks for watching. I am Owigo Okolo.
Behind screams and tears of pain in some communities, there is a terrible act of pipeline vandalism which causes fire outbreak and takes innocent lives. Pipeline vandalism also pollutes our waters and the fish we eat. Please join us to save lives and stop this crime. Warn or report those who vandalize our pipelines. The law will deal with them. NNPC, we touch your lives in many positive ways.
That's the package for Oil and Gas Forum this edition. Thanks for being part of the stakeholdership. Brighter days are ahead. Enjoy your week.